The morning sun cast golden light across the colony of New Harbor as Emma Collins skipped through the tall grass behind her family's home. Her brown pigtails bounced with each step, and her bright blue eyes scanned the forest edge with endless curiosity. At 7 years old, Emma saw the world as a place full of wonderful mysteries waiting to be discovered. Her parents had brought her to this frontier colony world 2 years ago. Her father, Peter, worked as the colony administrator, spending long hours making sure everyone had what they needed. Her mother, Linda, studied alien plants and animals, teaching Emma about all the strange and beautiful creatures that lived on New Harbor. Emma loved it here, even though some of the adults always seemed worried about something. Today was supposed to be a relaxing family picnic near the forest preserve. The preserve was a protected area where the colony left nature untouched, letting the native plants and animals live in peace. Emma's parents had spread a blanket under a large tree with purple leaves, and her father was unpacking sandwiches from their basket. But Emma had spotted something interesting at the forest edge. A trail of small footprints led between the trees, and she wanted to know what made them. Before her mother could call her back, Emma had already slipped into the cool shadows beneath the canopy. The forest was different from Earth forests she had seen in pictures. The trees here had smooth silver bark, and the leaves whispered with a musical sound when the wind blew through them. Small flying creatures with colorful wings darted between branches, and the air smelled sweet like honey. Emma followed the footprints deeper into the forest. They looked like bird tracks, but much bigger, with marks that might have been claws. She hummed a tune her mother had taught her, not scared at all. Emma had never learned to be afraid of new things. After walking for several minutes, she heard a sound that made her stop. It was a small chirping noise, sad and lonely. Emma pushed through a cluster of ferns and found herself in a small clearing. In the middle of the clearing sat the most amazing creature Emma had ever seen. It was about the size of a large dog, covered in scales that shimmered between deep red and bright orange in the sunlight. Small wings were folded against its sides, too small yet for flying. Its head was shaped like a triangle with 2 small horns just beginning to grow. A long tail curled around its body, and smoke puffed from its nostrils with each breath. The creature looked up at Emma with large, golden eyes. Bits of eggshell still clung to its scales. It chirped again, a questioning sound, and tilted its head. Emma's face lit up with pure delight. "Oh, you're so cute," she exclaimed, dropping to her knees. "Look at your little horns and your pretty scales. Are you all alone out here?" The creature watched her carefully, but did not move away. In the galaxy beyond New Harbor, adult members of this species were known as dragons. They were fierce warriors, masters of space travel, and territorial defenders of their worlds. Other alien species feared them. Entire civilizations had tried to avoid dragon space because of their reputation for aggression. But Emma did not know any of this. She only saw a baby animal that looked lost and scared. She slowly reached out her hand, palm up, the way her mother had taught her to approach new animals. "It's okay, little one. I won't hurt you." "My name is Emma. What's your name?" The dragon hatchling sniffed her hand cautiously. Emma stayed very still, smiling gently. After a moment, the hatchling pressed its warm snout against her palm. Emma giggled with joy. "You're all warm, and your scales are so smooth. They're beautiful, like jewels." Emma sat down cross-legged in the grass. The hatchling climbed into her lap, curling up like a cat. It was surprisingly heavy, but Emma did not mind. She noticed the broken eggshell scattered around the clearing. The shell was thick and dark, and there was only one egg. "Where's your mama?" Emma asked softly, stroking the hatchling's head. "Did you get lost?" The hatchling made a small sad sound and nuzzled against her. Emma hugged it gently. "Don't worry. I'll help you. But first, you must be hungry." She remembered the sandwich in her pocket from earlier. Her mother had made it with her favorite cheese and had wrapped it in paper. Emma broke off small pieces and offered them to the hatchling. It sniffed the food, then ate carefully from her hand. Its tongue was warm and ticklish against her palm. Emma laughed and kept feeding her new friend. Meanwhile, back at the picnic site, Linda Collins had noticed her daughter was missing. "Peter, where's Emma?" she called out with growing concern. Peter Collins looked up from arranging the food. "She was just here a moment ago." He scanned the area and felt his heart sink when he saw the small footprints leading into the forest. "Emma," he called loudly. "Emma Collins, where are you?" Linda was already pulling out her communication device. "Kyle, this is Linda Collins. Emma has wandered into the forest preserve. We need help searching for her." Commander Kyle Harrison's voice crackled back immediately. "On my way with the team. Stay where you are and keep calling for her." Within minutes, Harrison arrived with 4 security officers. He was a tall man with gray hair and serious eyes. Living on a frontier colony meant dealing with potential dangers every day, and a missing child was a serious matter. "She followed some tracks into the preserve," Peter explained, his voice tight with worry. "She's curious, but usually stays close." Linda was already moving toward the forest. "Emma knows not to wander far. Something must have caught her attention." Harrison organized his team quickly. "Spread out, but stay in visual contact. Watch for any native predators." He activated his scanner, searching for Emma's biosignature. What the scanner showed made him freeze. "Wait," he said sharply. "I'm reading Emma's signal, but there's something else with her. A large thermal signature, reptilian pattern." Linda's face went pale. "Reptilian? On New Harbor, that could only mean..." She did not finish the sentence. Everyone on the colony knew about the Dragon scout ships that had been detected near their system in recent weeks. Harrison was already running into the forest, weapon drawn. "Move, now. Collins, stay with me." Both parents ran after the security team, their hearts pounding with fear. They crashed through the undergrowth, following the scanner signals, deeper into the preserve. When they burst into the clearing, they stopped short at the scene before them. Emma sat peacefully in the grass, a dragon hatchling curled contentedly in her lap. She was stroking its scales and talking to it softly, completely unaware of any danger. The hatchling's eyes were half closed in contentment as Emma fed it pieces of her sandwich. "Look, Mama, look, Daddy," Emma called out happily when she saw them. "I found a friend. Isn't he the cutest thing ever?" Commander Harrison raised his weapon instinctively, but Linda Collins grabbed his arm. "Wait," she whispered urgently. "Look at them." The hatchling is completely calm. Peter Collins wanted to rush forward and grab his daughter, but something about the peaceful scene made him hesitate. Emma was smiling, completely relaxed, while the dragon hatchling rested trustingly in her lap. The creature's golden eyes watched the adults, but showed no signs of aggression. "Emma, sweetheart," Linda called out in the calmest voice she could manage. "I need you to very slowly stand up and walk toward us, okay?" Emma looked confused. "Why? Mama? I'm playing with my new friend. He was all alone and scared, so I'm taking care of him." "That's very kind of you, honey, but that animal might be dangerous," Peter said, trying to keep his voice steady. Emma laughed, as if this was the silliest thing she had ever heard. "Dangerous, Daddy? He's just a baby. Look at his little wings. They're too small to even fly yet. And he was so hungry. I've been sharing my sandwich with him." The hatchling lifted its head and made a soft chirping sound, as if agreeing with Emma. Small puffs of smoke drifted from its nostrils, but it made no threatening moves. Harrison lowered his weapon slightly, but kept it ready. "Dr. Collins, you're the xenobiologist. What are we looking at here?" Linda moved forward carefully, her scientific training overcoming her parental fear. She observed the hatchling from a safe distance, noting its size, the bits of eggshell still stuck to some scales, and the way its wings were not fully developed. "It's very young," she said quietly. "Probably hatched within the last few hours. It hasn't learned to be aggressive yet." "Dragons are born aggressive," Harrison argued. "Everyone knows that. Everyone assumes that," Linda corrected. "But this one has clearly bonded with Emma. Look at its body language. It's completely relaxed, trusting. This is unprecedented." Emma had started humming again, stroking the hatchling's head. The creature closed its eyes and made a rumbling sound, like a purr. "I think I'll call him Ember," Emma announced, "because he's all warm and glowy like the fire in our fireplace." "Emma, we need to talk about this," Peter said, moving closer, but still maintaining distance. "That creature's family might be looking for it. Then we should help find his family," Emma said simply. "That's what you do when someone is lost. You help them. Harrison spoke into his communication device. This is Harrison. I need Dr. Alan Foster at the Forest Preserve immediately. We have a situation. He paused. And someone contact the orbital station. We need to know if those dragon ships are still in the area. Within 20 minutes, Dr. Alan Foster arrived in the clearing. He was a slim man with glasses who specialized in alien relations. He had studied dozens of different species and their cultures. When he saw Emma sitting peacefully with the dragon hatchling, his eyes widened with amazement. Incredible, he breathed. Simply incredible. Do you know what you're witnessing here? No human has ever been this close to a dragon without violence occurring. Is it safe? Peter demanded. That's all I care about. Foster approached slowly, pulling out a small scanning device. The hatchling is healthy, well-fed apparently, and showing no signs of distress. In fact, its stress hormones are remarkably low. He looked at Emma. Young lady, what did you do when you first saw this creature? Emma thought about it. I said he was cute, because he is. Look at his shiny scales and his little face. How could anyone not think he's adorable? Foster smiled. Most species see young dragons and think threat or danger. You saw cute. That's very human of you, Emma. Can I keep playing with him? Emma asked hopefully. He likes when I scratch behind his horns right here. She demonstrated, and Ember leaned into her touch, making happy chirping sounds. Emma, he's not a pet, Linda explained gently. He has a family somewhere. They must be very worried about him. As if summoning them with those words, Harrison's communicator suddenly blared an urgent alert. Commander, this is Orbital Station. We have a massive draconian warship entering the system. It's broadcasting a message demanding the return of a lost hatchling. Everyone in the clearing froze except Emma, who continued petting Ember. See? I told you his family would come looking for him. They must love him very much. Harrison's face had gone pale. How long until they reach orbit? 18 minutes, came the reply. The ship is heavily armed. It's one of their matriarch-class vessels. Foster removed his glasses and cleaned them nervously. A matriarch ship. That means this hatchling belongs to one of their warrior leaders. They're probably expecting the worst. What do we do? Peter asked, pulling Linda close. We can't just hand over my daughter to a warship full of angry dragons. Nobody is handing over anyone, Harrison said firmly. He activated the colony-wide alert system. All residents, this is Commander Harrison. We have incoming alien vessels. This is not a drill. Proceed to designated shelters in an orderly fashion. Security teams to your stations. Linda knelt down near Emma, trying to stay calm. Emma, honey, the hatchling's mother is coming, but she might be very angry because she thinks we took her baby. We need to figure out how to explain what happened. Emma looked up at her mother with complete innocence. But we didn't take him, Mama. I found him lost in the woods. His mama will understand once we tell her. Mamas always understand. Foster was frantically recording notes on his device. We need to document this. The first peaceful human-dragon contact in history, and it's happening because a 7-year-old girl thought a hatchling was cute. This could change everything. Or get us all killed, Harrison muttered, but he was already organizing defensive positions around the clearing. Ember had fallen asleep in Emma's lap, snoring softly with tiny puffs of smoke. Emma continued stroking his scales gently. Don't worry, Ember. Your mama is coming. She'll be so happy to see you're safe. In orbit above New Harbor, the massive dragon warship moved into position. On the colony screens, they could see it was shaped like a giant wing, covered in dark metal that seemed to absorb light. Weapons ports lined its surface. It was a vessel designed for war. A transmission came through in a deep, rumbling voice that the colony's computers struggled to translate. This is Matriarch Silverclaw of the Draconian Empire. You are holding my hatchling. Return him immediately or face destruction. Peter and Linda exchanged worried glances. Foster adjusted his translator, preparing to respond. Harrison checked his weapons, knowing they would be useless against a ship that size. And Emma, surrounded by all this tension and fear, simply smiled down at the sleeping hatchling in her lap and whispered, "Your mama sounds very strong. I bet she's beautiful too." The colony of New Harbor erupted into controlled chaos. Families rushed toward underground shelters, while security teams took defensive positions that everyone knew would be meaningless against a warship. Captain Nicole Barnes coordinated the evacuation from the command center, her hands steady despite the fear in her eyes. In the forest clearing, Dr. Foster activated his communication device with shaking hands. Matriarch Silverclaw, this is Dr. Alan Foster of New Harbor Colony. Please listen carefully. Your hatchling is safe and unharmed. A human child found him alone in the forest and has been caring for him. The response came back immediately, the translator struggling with the angry, rumbling tones. You dare speak of care while holding my son hostage? Prepare for my arrival. If one scale on his body is damaged, your colony will burn. We are not holding him hostage, Foster insisted, but the transmission had already ended. Harrison turned to his team. She's sending a landing craft. It will touch down in approximately 7 minutes. Everyone stay calm and keep weapons lowered unless I give the direct order. Linda Collins finally approached her daughter, kneeling beside her in the grass. Emma, sweetheart, Ember's mother is coming here. She's very large and probably very angry. I need you to be brave, okay? Emma looked up with those innocent blue eyes. Why would she be angry, Mama? We took good care of Ember. Look how happy he is. The hatchling had woken up and was now playfully chasing a flying insect, pouncing on it with his small claws while Emma giggled. She doesn't know that yet, Peter explained, joining his wife. She probably thinks we hurt him or took him on purpose.
But that's silly, Emma said.
Why would anyone hurt a baby? We just need to tell her the truth. Foster was recording everything with his device. Emma's right in a way. Dragons value honesty above all else, according to our research. If we're truthful about what happened, we might have a chance. The sky above them began to darken as the dragon landing craft descended. It was enormous, blocking out the sun as it approached. The vessel was shaped like a predatory bird, with wings that glowed red-hot from atmospheric entry. The ground shook as it landed in the field beyond the forest, flattening grass and small trees with the force of its engines. A ramp extended from the craft's side, and heavy footsteps echoed from within. First came 4 dragon warriors, each one standing 3 times as tall as a human. They wore dark armor that gleamed like metal and carried weapons that hummed with energy. Their scales were various shades of green and black, and their eyes scanned the area with predatory focus. Then she emerged. Matriarch Silverclaw was massive beyond anything the humans had imagined. She stood on powerful legs, her body covered in silver scales that reflected light like mirrors. Her wings, even folded against her back, were larger than the entire landing craft. 2 curved horns rose from her head like crowns, and her claws left deep marks in the ground with each step. Smoke drifted constantly from her nostrils, and her golden eyes burned with fury. The dragon warriors formed a protective circle around her as she moved toward the forest. Each step made the ground tremble. Harrison's security team backed away instinctively, their weapons suddenly feeling like toys. Where is my hatchling? Silverclaw's voice boomed across the field. The translator made her words clear, but everyone could hear the dangerous edge beneath them. In the forest preserve, matriarch, Foster called out, his voice cracking slightly. Please, let us explain what happened. Your son is perfectly safe. But Silverclaw was already moving toward the forest, her warriors following close behind. Trees bent and broke as she pushed through them, too large to fit easily between the trunks. The humans scrambled to get out of her way. Emma heard the approaching sounds and looked up from playing with Ember. Oh, that must be your mama, she said brightly to the hatchling. Come on, let's go say hello. She stood up, brushing grass from her dress. Emma, no, Linda shouted, but her daughter was already running toward the sounds of breaking trees. Emma burst through the ferns and came face to face with Matriarch Silverclaw. The massive dragon stopped abruptly, shocked to see a tiny human child running directly toward her. Her warriors raised their weapons, but Silverclaw held up one claw to stop them. Emma stopped a few feet away, tilting her head back to look up at the enormous dragon. Her parents and the security team caught up, frozen in horror at what they were seeing. Harrison wanted to grab Emma and run, but he knew any sudden movement might trigger an attack. "Wow," Emma breathed, her eyes wide with wonder. "You're so beautiful. Your scales are like mirrors, and your wings are amazing. You must be Ember's mama." Silverclaw stared down at the small human who showed no fear, only admiration. In all her years as a warrior and leader, no other species had ever greeted her with anything but terror. This child's reaction was completely unexpected. Before anyone could stop her, Emma turned and called out, "Ember, your mama is here!" The hatchling came bounding through the ferns, chirping excitedly. When he saw his mother, Ember's chirps became joyful squeals. He ran to Silverclaw, climbing up her leg to her shoulder, where he nuzzled against her neck. Silverclaw's fierce expression softened immediately as she nuzzled her son back, checking him carefully for injuries. She found none. Ember was clean, well-fed, and happy. He kept looking back at Emma and chirping, as if telling his mother about his adventure. Emma walked closer, completely unafraid. "I found him in the clearing. He was all alone and looked sad. So I gave him my sandwich and played with him. I named him Ember because he's warm like fire. I hope that's okay." Silverclaw lowered her massive head to look directly at Emma. The child could feel the heat from the dragon's breath, could see her own reflection in those enormous golden eyes. Everyone watching held their breath. "You found my son lost and alone," Silverclaw said slowly, her voice now controlled and careful. "What did you think when you first saw him?" Emma smiled. "I thought he was the cutest thing I'd ever seen. Look at his little horns and his pretty scales. He's beautiful, just like you." One of the dragon warriors made a sound of surprise. Another shifted uncomfortably. Silverclaw continued studying Emma carefully. "You were not afraid?" the matriarch asked. Emma shook her head. "Why would I be afraid? He's just a baby. Babies need help and love. That's what my mama taught me." Silverclaw was silent for a long moment. Then she turned her gaze to the adult humans cowering near the trees. "You are this hatchling's parents?" Linda and Peter stepped forward, trying to be as brave as their daughter. "Yes, matriarch," Linda managed to say. "We're Emma's parents." "You taught her to see my kind as beautiful?" Silverclaw asked. "To care for a lost hatchling instead of fearing it or harming it?" Peter spoke up, his voice steadying. "We taught her to be kind to all living things, to help those who need help, regardless of what they look like." Silverclaw looked back at Emma, then at Ember, who was still chirping happily on her shoulder. The hatchling clearly adored this small human. "I came here expecting more," Silverclaw said quietly. "I thought you had stolen my son to use as a hostage, or to study like a specimen. Every other species we have encountered has shown us only fear or aggression." Emma reached up and gently touched one of Silverclaw's silver claws. The dragon could have crushed the child with one movement, but she remained perfectly still. "That sounds lonely," Emma said softly. "Everyone should have friends. Would you like to be friends with us?" Silverclaw remained motionless, staring at the tiny human hand resting on her claw. Around her, the dragon warriors shifted nervously, uncertain how to react to this unprecedented situation. One of them, an older dragon with dark crimson scales, stepped forward carefully. "Matriarch, I am Elder Crimson Wing. May I speak?" His voice was gentler than Silverclaw's, though still deep and rumbling. Silverclaw nodded slowly, her eyes still fixed on Emma. Crimson Wing approached and lowered his head to be closer to Emma's level. "Young one, you offer friendship to us, but do you understand what we are? We are dragons. Throughout the galaxy, others fear us. They call us monsters and beasts. They see only our weapons and our strength." Emma tilted her head, considering his words carefully. "But you're not monsters. You're people, just like us. You have families and babies. Ember's mama came all this way because she loves him. That's not what monsters do. That's what good parents do." The simplicity of her logic struck everyone present. Dr. Foster pulled out his recording device again, his hands trembling with excitement. This conversation could reshape everything humanity understood about dragon culture. The child speaks truth, Crimson Wing said to Silverclaw. She sees with clear eyes, unclouded by stories or fear. Silverclaw carefully moved her claw so Emma's hand rested in her palm instead of on the sharp edge. The gesture was protective, gentle. Tell me, small one, what did you do when you found Ember? Emma brightened, happy to share her story. I followed footprints into the forest and found him in a clearing. He looked scared and hungry, so I sat down and let him sniff my hand, like Mama taught me with new animals. Then he climbed in my lap and I fed him my sandwich. He really liked the cheese part. Ember chirped from his mother's shoulder, as if confirming the story. He spread his small wings proudly, showing off for Emma. Did you not think he might hurt you? Silverclaw asked. Hurt me? Emma looked genuinely confused. But he's a baby. Babies don't hurt people on purpose. They might bite by accident when they're teething, but that's different. You just have to be gentle with them. Linda Collins found her voice, stepping closer to her daughter, Matriarch Silverclaw. I'm a xenobiologist. I study alien life. When we found Emma with your son, I could see immediately that he had bonded with her, the way he trusted her, relaxed in her presence. It was remarkable. In all my years of study, I've never seen two species connect so naturally. Peter added, we had no intention of keeping him. We were trying to figure out how to safely return him to you when your ship arrived. Emma's been caring for him, because that's who she is. She sees a creature in need, and she helps. Silverclaw lifted her head and looked at the assembled humans. Most were still afraid, keeping their distance. But Emma's parents stood close, protecting their daughter while also respecting the dragons. Harrison and his security team had lowered their weapons completely. In our culture, Silverclaw began, her voice carrying across the clearing, hatchlings are precious beyond measure. The loss of an egg, the disappearance of a young one, these are tragedies that shake entire clans. When I discovered Ember's egg had rolled from our nesting grounds during a storm, I feared the worst. She gently lifted Ember from her shoulder and held him in her claws, examining him thoroughly. But he is healthy, content. He smells of bread and cheese and human kindness. This is not what I expected to find. Emma walked right up to Silverclaw's leg and looked up. Can I ask you something, Miss Silverclaw? The matriarch and her warriors all reacted with surprise at being addressed so casually, but Silverclaw nodded. Why does everyone think dragons are scary? Ember is so sweet and playful, and you came all this way just to find your baby. That's not scary. That's love. Crimson Wing spoke before Silverclaw could answer. We have sharp claws and powerful flames. We are large and strong. When others see us, they see weapons first, beings second. Over time, we learn to use their fear to protect ourselves and our territories. But doesn't that make you lonely? Emma asked innocently. If everyone is always scared of you, you can't have any friends. The question hung in the air like smoke. Several dragon warriors looked at each other, surprised by the child's insight. Silverclaw was quiet for a long moment. Yes, she finally admitted. It is lonely. Our empire is vast and powerful, but we have no allies, no one we can trust. We have been fighting and defending for so many generations that we forgot what peace might feel like. Emma reached up and patted Silverclaw's leg sympathetically. That sounds really hard, but you don't have to be alone anymore. We could be your friends. Right, Daddy? Peter Collins took a deep breath, understanding the weight of this moment. Yes, we would be honored to call you friends. What Emma did for Ember, she did because we taught her that all life deserves kindness and respect. We would extend that same respect to your entire people. Dr. Foster stepped forward eagerly. Matriarch, this could be the beginning of something historic. The first true alliance between humans and dragons. Think of what we could learn from each other, what we could accomplish together. Silverclaw studied the humans carefully. Her warriors watched her, waiting for guidance. This was not a decision to make lightly. Their entire culture was built on strength and independence. But then Ember wriggled out of his mother's grasp and ran to Emma. He climbed up her dress and perched on her shoulder, nuzzling against her cheek. Emma giggled and hugged him gently. Ember has chosen, Crimson Wing observed. The young one sees no barriers between species. Perhaps there is wisdom in that innocence. Silverclaw watched her son and the human child together. The bond between them was undeniable. Ember was happy, safe, loved by someone who was not even his own kind. What kind of species raises their children to see beauty in the different and dangerous? "I have a proposal," Silverclaw announced. "The humans of New Harbor showed mercy and kindness to my lost hatchling. This deserves recognition." Emma Collins stepped forward. Emma walked up to the massive dragon, still holding Ember. She showed no fear, only curiosity and warmth. Silverclaw lowered her head until her snout nearly touched Emma's face. "I name you Sister of the Clutch, the first of your kind to bear this honor. You cared for my son when you could have ignored him or harmed him. You saw beauty where others see only threat. This is a gift rare in the galaxy." She looked at Linda and Peter. "Your daughter has opened a door that has been closed for countless generations. If you are willing, I propose an alliance between our peoples. Not born of war or necessity, but of genuine respect." Commander Harrison stepped forward. "Matriarch, I speak for colony security. We would welcome such an alliance." Captain Barnes's voice came through the communicators. "The Colony Council has been listening to everything. We vote yes. We want peace with the dragons." Emma beamed with happiness. "Does this mean Ember can come visit me sometimes?" Silverclaw's stern expression softened into something that might have been a smile. "Yes, small sister. Ember may visit, and perhaps you would like to visit our nesting grounds as well? It seems you have much to teach us about seeing the world with kindness." News of Emma's friendship with the dragons spread across human space like wildfire. Every news channel broadcast the recordings that Dr. Foster had captured. People watched in amazement as a 7-year-old girl sat fearlessly with a dragon hatchling, feeding him cheese sandwiches and calling him cute. They saw her stand before Matriarch Silverclaw without fear, offering friendship with the pure honesty only a child could possess. Within 3 days, Governor Helen Martinez arrived at New Harbor. She was a tall woman with gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. She had governed this entire sector of human colonies for 12 years and had never expected to negotiate with dragons during her career. Silverclaw had remained on New Harbor with Elder Crimsonwing and a small group of warriors. She had sent her warship back to Dragon Space with a message that shocked the entire Draconian Empire. The humans were not enemies. They were potential allies. The formal meeting took place in the colony's main hall, hastily prepared for visitors who could barely fit through the doors. Silverclaw had to remain partly outside, her head and upper body visible through the large entrance, while her warriors stood in the courtyard beyond. Governor Martinez sat at a table with Peter Collins, Commander Harrison, and Dr. Foster. On the other side, visible through the doorway, Silverclaw and Crimsonwing represented the dragons. And sitting cross-legged on the floor between both groups, Emma played with Ember, completely unconcerned with the historic diplomacy happening around her. "Matriarch Silverclaw," Governor Martinez began formally, "on behalf of the human colonies in this sector, I thank you for your willingness to meet. The events of the past few days have shown us that our peoples have much to learn from each other." Silverclaw nodded gravely. "Governor Martinez, I came to your world expecting conflict. What I found instead was a child who saw my son not as a monster, but as a being worthy of care and affection. This has caused me to question many assumptions my people have held for generations." Crimsonwing added, "We dragons have been isolated by our own reputation. We believed this isolation made us strong, but watching young Emma with Ember, seeing how naturally they bonded despite all their differences, we wonder what we have lost by choosing fear over friendship." Emma looked up from her play. "You haven't lost anything yet. You can still make friends. That's what Mama says. It's never too late to be kind." The adult smiled at her innocent wisdom. Ember chirped in agreement and playfully chased his tail, making Emma giggle. Governor Martinez pulled out a document displayed on a digital screen. "We have drafted a proposal for a cultural exchange program. Human children could visit dragon worlds to learn your history, your culture, your ways. Dragon hatchlings could come to our colonies to experience human education and values. We believe that if our children grow up knowing each other, peace will become natural rather than negotiated. Silverclaw was quiet, considering carefully. You would trust us with your young ones? Send them to our worlds? Yes, Linda Collins spoke up. Just as you trusted us, when you saw how we treated Ember. Trust must begin somewhere. Let it begin with our children, who see each other without prejudice. Peter added, Emma has shown us that children instinctively understand what we adults often forget. Different does not mean dangerous. Strange does not mean enemy. Your hatchling needed help, and my daughter helped him. It was that simple. Simple, Silverclaw repeated, seeming to taste the word. Yes, it was simple. Emma did not analyze or fear or calculate risk. She saw a need and filled it. Perhaps that is the wisdom we have been missing. Elder Crimsonwing leaned forward, his crimson scales gleaming in the hall's light. I have lived 300 of your years. I have seen countless conflicts, endless territorial disputes. Never have I witnessed what I saw 3 days ago in that forest clearing. A child and a hatchling, two species meeting for the first time, choosing friendship instantly and naturally. Emma had stopped playing and was listening now. It wasn't hard, she said. Ember is nice. All you have to do is be nice back. That's how friendship works. Governor Martinez smiled warmly at her. Emma, do you understand that you've done something very important? You've helped humans and dragons become friends. Emma shrugged. I just took care of Ember because he needed help. Anybody would do that. But not everybody did, Silverclaw said gently. You and that has made all the difference. The negotiations continued for hours. They agreed to establish an embassy on New Harbor where dragons and humans could meet regularly. They planned student exchange programs, starting with volunteers. They discussed trade possibilities and shared scientific research. They drew maps showing territorial boundaries that both sides would respect. But the most important agreement was the simplest one. It was written by Emma herself, with help from her mother to spell the difficult words. It said, humans and dragons promise to be kind to each other, to help when help is needed, and to teach their children that being different is not scary. Friends can be any shape or size. This simple declaration was signed by Governor Martinez and Matriarch Silverclaw. It became known throughout the galaxy as the Ember Accord, named after the hatchling whose accidental journey to a human world had started everything. 3 months later, the first group of human children arrived on a dragon nesting world. Emma was among them, holding her father's hand tightly as they stepped off the transport ship. Dragon hatchlings came forward curiously, and within minutes, the children of both species were playing together, chasing and laughing and learning each other's games. 6 months after that, young dragons arrived at New Harbor for schooling. They learned to read human languages and studied Earth history. Human children taught them games and songs. The dragons taught the humans about star navigation and the ancient art of flame control. Emma became something of a celebrity, but she never let it change her. She spent her days in school with her human friends and her dragon friends, treating everyone exactly the same. Ember visited often, growing larger each month, but remaining gentle and playful with Emma. One evening, nearly a year after their first meeting, Emma sat in her family's garden, reading a story. Around her sat a mixed group of human and dragon children, all listening intently. Ember, now the size of a horse, rested beside her chair. His wings had grown large enough for short flights, and he often took Emma soaring over the colony. Linda and Peter watched from the doorway, while Silverclaw and Crimsonwing stood nearby. The dragon matriarch had become a frequent visitor to New Harbor, working closely with the colony leaders to strengthen the alliance. Your daughter changed the galaxy, Silverclaw said quietly. She saw what we all needed to see. Linda smiled, her eyes on Emma. She just saw a baby who needed help. Everything else followed from that one moment of simple kindness. That is humanity's greatest gift, Crimsonwing observed. Not your technology or your cleverness, though those are impressive. Your greatest gift is the ability to see with a child's heart, to offer kindness before fear, to find beauty in the unknown. Peter nodded. And your people's greatest gift is your willingness to change, to look past centuries of isolation and choose connection instead. In the garden, Emma finished her story. The children applauded, humans and dragons together. Ember nuzzled Emma affectionately, and she hugged his large head, her arms barely reaching around it now. "Another story," called a small dragon hatchling with green scales. "Please, Emma," added a human boy. Emma laughed and opened another book. As she began reading, her voice carried on the evening breeze. Around her, children of two species who once might have been enemies sat together as friends, learning that kindness knows no boundaries. The sun set over New Harbor, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. In the garden below, a human child and a dragon hatchling sat side by side, proving that the greatest discoveries often come not from adults with their complicated plans and careful negotiations, but from children who simply know how to be kind. And somewhere in the depths of space, on 100 different worlds, other species heard the story of Emma and Ember. They heard about the girl who called a dragon cute and the alliance that was born from that innocent moment. Some dismissed it as a lucky accident. Others saw it as a lesson. But on New Harbor, in a garden where human and dragon children played together under the stars, it was simply the beginning of a beautiful friendship that would change the galaxy forever. The Ember Accord stood as proof that humanity's greatest weapon was never technology or military might. It was the ability to see others with compassion, to extend kindness first and ask questions later, and to teach their children that every being, no matter how different or fearsome they might appear, deserves to be seen as they truly are. And sometimes that truth is as simple as a 7-year-old girl looking at a dragon and saying, "You're so cute."